Welcome to the Justin Hamilton podcast. On today's episode, we are continuing our day-to-day watch of season 5 of The Bear. We are up to episode 3, Mint, and we have a pretty big moment, and it's a moment that we've been waiting for probably since this season began. And let's go and look at the peripheral characters to begin with before we dig into the moment where Sydney tells the staff that Kami is leaving. Um, let's start with Jimmy, who is still thinking that he might be able to sell the airspace. This is a wild idea to me, but he's a desperate man, and he calls Donna to try and find out details to discover if it has been sold in the past. And Donna is Donna, like probably the best version we've seen of Donna, but she is looking after her grandchild. The light goes out, and she's almost a little bit excited by this turn of events, but she does leave Jimmy hanging. He is quite rightfully right on the very edge, and we see how this plays out in the final part of the episode. A fun little subplot with Ebra and Richie. Someone is stealing spoons. Does someone on the Bear have a heroin addiction? I don't know. That's my only reasoning for why someone would be stealing spoons. But Ibra, I should say, setting a trap was very funny, and then also once again, prepping himself to go and speak to Kami about his idea, which I'm guessing is to rather, because we keep hearing from computer the words franchise, and between that word being drummed into our head and Ibra's plans, maybe the drive-through is how this business is going to survive. You franchise those little holes in the wall, which seem to be so popular, and maybe that's what can bring them around. It kind of also fits in thematically where we had Marcus and Luca talking about the deliciousness of a McGriddle at McDonald's and talking about consistency and how regardless that McDonald's is fast food, that is something that people want. And in trying times as we are living now, consistency is rare, and it also provides comfort. So maybe the franchising of the smaller part of the business is the way forward, and will give everyone an opportunity to survive and continue to breathe. It would be a nice gentle, ironic turn that this series has been about turning this restaurant into a restaurant that can be rewarded with a Michelin star. And in the end, it's always been a family business, and it was probably never meant to be this. What it was always meant to be was a place where families can gather and can experience consistency and comfort. And I think that's been the great flaw of Kami, having a responsibility thrust upon him, having a sense of guilt, having unresolved family issues, and then on top of it, trying to take on a mission that was intellectually a challenge, but was always beyond him emotionally. But we'll get to Kami in a second. But I just wanted to talk about how it feels like things are coalescing in a way where that might be where the show ends up towards the end. I'm loving the Marcus Luca scenes, them trying to work out what to do. They get told that they have to combine two courses, and this is where we get Mint as the title, and it is there's something really nice about that bromance in the corner. Those two just working away, uh, finding solutions, communicating, learning more about each other. And, I feel like they're the ideal platonic idea of male friendship. So I'm really enjoying that storyline. Sid getting annoyed with Neil and his fixation on, the supernatural. I'm with you, Sydney. Like, calm down, you crazy asshole. Like, you need to breathe. And I did enjoy the different reactions to his meltdown, but I'm definitely closer to Sydney than I am Carmi. Yeah, I think I would have been Carmi at some point where you just go, yeah, thanks, I really appreciate that. But in this situation, I would definitely be more Sydney. Um, Having a fac on the roof, we all knew. Who didn't think that this episode was going to end with him falling through the roof? We knew it was going to happen. From the moment that you've got Richie getting the walkie-talkies, nobody really understanding how to use the walkie-talkies, hitting the ceiling with the broomstick. This episode could and only finish one way. And I don't think that's a flaw. I think that's just good storytelling, that it follows through with its logical conclusion. And it was a good way to end, especially once again, hearing the facts freaking out as the credits roll. Interestingly, we've had no moments of song drops. And it's all been Hans Zimmer music, which I don't mind actually. I think it's been giving this series a sense of consistency, and it feels more like an episode of The Pit, doesn't it? Which is quite interesting. But I'm sure there is going to be a needle drop at some point, and when it does, I'm guessing it'll be the end, and I'm guessing they'll nail it because they've nailed it every other time. The app begins to work, and we find out that they are overbooked. Nobody can agree why. Is the app broken? That is, in my opinion, the greater possibility. But people reading about Marcus may have drummed up some interest as well, which I think is pretty sweet for our dessert chef. So either way, they have a lot of people coming in, not a lot of ingredients, and they have to get to work. So what we end up with for the spine of this episode is the continuing, if you want to be positive, evolution of the Sydney Carmi relationship, or maybe it is the deterioration. It is a fascinating thing to watch. It's a very hard thing to be a fan of someone, to idolize someone, and to get to know them, and then discover that they're just like everybody else. They are incredibly flawed. And I think that is a part of what makes it really difficult for Sydney, is that, Carmi is her inspiration to get into this business, and by being close to him physically and emotionally, she has discovered that, like most humans, they were incredibly flawed, and the idol being stripped bare before you can be confronting. And in many ways, even though I understand where she is at in this episode, she shows an immaturity, and she shows that she is not quite prepared, probably emotionally, for what she needs to do. What comes of finding out that a hero is flawed is often it is not just being depressed and disappointed, but it can feel like a betrayal. And if you can be lucky enough to spend more time with that person and push through that, you can embrace the person, and you can actually have a stronger relationship. Uh, but it's a shift, and it's a very difficult shift. And I think a lot of us have dealt with it. In the past, especially when you're younger and you're looking up to people, and I think you can be on the receiving end of it as well. So this inability to kind of work out this dynamic with Kami in this situation is pretty fascinating. Um, it, I'd say to you that Sydney did not handle this well, but in no way am I blaming her either. Like Kami once again chooses a moment where they just have to get on with things, and and he says, let's tell them together and say that this was a decision that we made together, and now you're the boss. But it wasn't. Kami, you made this decision. You thrust this responsibility upon Sydney and Richie, and he needs to take some responsibility for this. Which, when she finally snaps, uh, he actually does quite well. And I think they're all the way through this season. A key to understanding where Kami is at is when he doesn't accept that phone call from a number he doesn't recognize. He says that he's being a coward, and he's had opportunities to talk to Jimmy. He's had opportunities to talk to people individually, and he fails to do so. Uh, when he does speak, though, he speaks eloquently, and he speaks with a deft touch of emotional realism that he's been doing himself a disservice for a long time. If he'd just been able to breathe, and he'd just been able to take a moment and think things through, uh, there's I think that scene shows you the way forward for Kami after this story finishes. He can find a way to finding an equilibrium. He can find a way to finding a true joy in life and a level of happiness. But it's a shame that he has just been needling Sydney all the way through this episode. And, she's getting annoyed with him. He's kind of second guessing her. Unfortunately, uh, when he goes to add the fish sauce and she pushes back against that and then she tastes it, he was right. But he's been so bombastic in previous seasons. He's been so forthright that, of course, your initial reaction, if you're Sydney, is to push against it. So, regardless of the best of his intentions, he has not handled this well. And when he finally speaks from the heart, uh, it is the worst timing, but it is exactly what he should have done a long time ago. Seeing the reactions from everyone, Ibra is pretty angry. People are upset. There is a resigned sensation to it, a little bit of disbelief. But once again, Tina is the one who sums it up perfectly, which is, she calls him by his full first name and says, I just don't have time for this because we need to move on. We have too many guests coming in, and we don't have time to be wallowing in how you ended up in this place. In his defense, once again, and this is what I really love about this show, is that people can be wrong and people can be right, and but it doesn't mean that it's black and white, and it's not diametrically opposed. People can do the wrong things for the right reasons and the right things for the wrong reasons. Uh, he has for a long time not been um, coping with his grief over his brother. There's always been a sense of guilt for how he feels about his family, and he's been trying to live up to a legend that was probably already built on a monument of clay, and being able to realize that he can't live up to that anymore, and he can't do it anymore, and he has made mistakes. That is actually personal growth. He just, as always with the bear, um, hasn't handled it in the way that he could have and he should have. But then again, it wouldn't be the bear if he did. So there you go. Uh, 3 episodes in, this is the moment that needed to happen. This is, uh, really plunging us forward. Now it's not only about survival of the business, it is so much more. It is everyone about to come to terms with probably what Sydney realized much earlier on, that Kami, for all his talent and all his skills, is just a guy who's really struggling with life. And it'll be interesting to see how each individual comes to terms with that. All right. I reckon that's enough out of me for this episode. Is there anything else in my notes that we need? I just really don't get enough of hearing Ebert talk about, I'm not phased by your blue eyes. I just keep finding it funny. He can keep talking about his blue eyes and how he's not going to let them overcome him. I really enjoy it. All right, that brings us to the end of this episode. As always, you can watch this on my YouTube channel, where there are some live stand-up specials that I recorded that you can check out. If you would like to support this podcast for as little as $5 a month, you can sign up at Patreon. All the money that is made at Patreon goes into this podcast, into the maintenance, the paying of subscriptions, the upkeep of what we're doing here. So if you would like to do that, that would be great. But a top review on whichever platform you use is also really a nice way to support if money is a little bit out of your reach. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this final season of The Bear with me, and I will be back tomorrow with episode 4. It looks like it's a slightly longer episode as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, thank you so much. I look forward to speaking to you then, and look after yourself until then.